Hello everyone! Today's video is going to be a little bit different. Today we're doing a sketchbook tour. The sketchbook that we're going to be touring is actually my sketchbook for Mermaid, and continuing on from that. It took me a little longer to finish than I expected with how much I was drawing, but we were also moving during this time, so it's a little scattered. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. So as you can see, it's from April 30th, so right at the beginning of Mermaid, or like right about to start Mermaid, obviously, up until the end of last month. And we just moved to Florida from California. My husband is in the military, so we tend to move around a lot. So this was like my very first Florida sketchbook. And so I commemorated it with the first page being Florida sketchbook #1. Obviously there's always random doodles in sketchbooks, but here's the start of Mermaid. Now I do have day 1 separate from this because I was looking at doing a tattoo design for myself. So Mermaid day 1 isn't actually in this sketchbook, but here is day 2. And the fun thing that I like about Mermaid is that there's so much variety that you can do. Obviously it's all the same because it's all mermaids, but you just have fun with it. Like I like adding my little seahorses every now and then, and getting more detailed with the scales also. This is actually one of my favorites. I like the way that the scales turn out on her. I think they came out really nice, and then obviously I really love the face, and I was getting into doing more short hair. For a long time I did nothing but like long hair. I did a mixed variety, but I definitely did more long than short. And I started getting into doing more short hair throughout the sketchbook, and the one previously, I believe. But this one was fun. I wanted to make her actually have a purpose for what she's looking at in this one, so I gave her a little seahorse buddy. And a lot of my stuff is just sketches. I plan on going back throughout this one and actually doing finished colored pieces and line work. It's something that I really enjoy doing, but since we were moving, all I had was my pencils, and it's something I'm actually a fan of the way that it turns out because it's a very soft look. And here you can see I did do ink for these guys. These are my little bear buddies. I created these, I want to say last year, and I just fell in love with them. And majority of them will always have wings or like a little crown or something just for fun. But I like, a lot of the times I like doing them in clouds. So they're like little angel bears in a manner of speaking. But I call them my bear buddies. And they're fun because they're more cartoony, which is something that I enjoy doing, which you can see in my pinup style a lot, is that it's more of a cartoony feel rather than realistic. And it's something that I've just always enjoyed doing. When I first started really sketching girls, a lot of my influence came from Bruce Timm. And Bruce Timm, if you don't know, is one of the artists that did the Batman animated series from the 90s. And at least that's where he got his popularity from, I want to say. Or at least from what I know of him. And he's one of my favorite artists. I actually have his art book called The Naughty and Nice, The Good Girl Art of Bruce Timm. It's one of my favorite art books that I have. And if you guys actually would like to see my art book collection one of these times, let me know and I'll do a video of those. I know today's a little bit different because I'm actually talking in the video, so I hope you guys enjoy it at least. This one was fun. I kind of went a little different with her because I actually gave her like a scaly bra and added a little fish friend, which I don't normally do, but sometimes I like to. This is actually an ode to like a high school doodle that I did. Me and a friend in my art class back in high school, which was 10 years ago, jeez. We used to doodle little sea creatures like that. So it was just fun to see the variation come out into even now, and it's very similar to the way it was back then. I just wasn't as good back then, so to speak. So this one is kind of like a mix of a mermaid and then a knot. So it's kind of, to me, she was an actual like lady, not a mermaid. So, but I gave her like the mermaid style top for the fun of it. And I really like the way this one came out. The face is nicely detailed, but also really soft. And that's something that I kind of strive to do, is get the detail really in the face. And this was another mermaid one that I did that you can't see her tail. You can just see like the scales on her upper body and the pearls. You'll see a lot of moons in my stuff. It's something that I'm a big fan of. I actually have a moon tattoo on my wrist. And like you'll just see it spotted throughout all kinds of art that I'll do. This one I really enjoyed, actually. I like the way it turned out. I gave her like flowers on her fin, her wrists, and her hair, and I just thought it came out really cute because it's different for what I usually do. Like sometimes I don't add a lot of like extra detail to the body. Sometimes I'll add tattoos and stuff like that, but I'm still working on exploring clothing and variety of what they're wearing, getting into more detail. But I definitely do tend to stick towards the more simplistic, which I kind of enjoy the way it looks. It kind of brings more attention to, excuse me, the face and everything like that. And you'll see a lot of these little seahorses. This is just a random doodle page. So I went with like almost like a pseudo Cleopatra kind of chick. And then just side profile, working on different kinds of, like, it's always good to practice. And if I'm not really in the mood for doing something big or doing something super detailed and I want it to be super quick, I'll just do rough sketches like this. And you'll see, like, when I do more sketchbook tours, if you guys would like to see more, this is definitely something that pops up a lot. I'll have pages of just random faces. And this one, I actually really love the way this one turned out. I don't do a lot of back profiles, and this is something that I wanted to explore a bit more, and I do continue to want to explore it, just doing different positions of the body and different figures. I pull a lot of my poses from like picture poses off of like Google search and stuff like that, actual images of people, because you tend to see the way the body actually flows and the movement of the body. Now I do also reference from like other artists occasionally and stuff like that, like drawing inspiration from people's poses, the way that certain things look. Now this is another one of my favorites for mermaid. I actually took the time and I gave her a trident. I found, what was it? It was like a pose from an action figure collectible that I have. And it's like this pirate chick and she's holding the sword behind her. It's either a pirate chick, I don't know, one or the other, but all the same. It's just the pose I really liked for the upper body, so I wanted to implement that into mermaid. So I gave her a trident and a crown, and I wanted to make her strong. And the face is actually one of my favorites for this whole time. It's very, I don't know, cute and soft, but also hard at the same time. This one, this one I really liked. I wanted her to be on like the seafloor, so I just did quick details of like the rocks and the seaweed and stuff like that. And I actually really like the way that the whole structure of this one came out. And that's why I say I plan on coming back to this and actually inking and doing colors of a lot of these mermaids that I did. Now this one was just a quick one. Sometimes instead of really sitting there and like taking my time, I realize I'll just like quickly sketch stuff out. And for myself, I always tend to start off with the face. Like I'll kind of draw the face somewhere on the page and then draw the body from the face, because to me, the face, the eyes, everything is kind of what tends to bring the picture together. This one, I was not, like, the arms on this one to me are very stiff. So while I like the way this one turned out, at the same time, like, it's not something that I would have necessarily posted, and more so would have been like a sketch for me, because it turned out more stiff than I meant for it to, and I kind of didn't know the direction I was going with it. So more of these random doodles that you'll see a lot of, like I said. This one actually looks unfinished, but still turned out pretty cute. She's more of like a coy, curious type. It's why I wanted to do like the finger by itself, pointing near the face and everything. Now you can see I'm kind of starting to get a little more rushed with some of my mermaid poses rather than actually taking my time, because I'm just trying to like knock it out. Now during this time, part of that was because I was painting a mural for my mother-in-law. We were staying at her place while we were waiting to move into our house. So she saw me doing all these mermaids and asked me to do a mural on her wall in her garage. And I posted some pictures of this on my Instagram. The pictures don't really do it justice, in my opinion. It's definitely better seen in person, because the lighting in the garage is definitely difficult to see. But I'm actually really proud of how it turned out. I'm not much of a painter, I'll admit. Like, I'm more so like a Copic marker artist, or just a marker artist in general. I'm working towards getting into more painting, watercolor, acrylics. I just bought an inexpensive set of gouache so I could try it out and see how I like it. But it was definitely an experience for me that I was really happy to be given, and I really enjoyed having the opportunity. And it was a struggle, but it was definitely a lot of fun. Like, each mermaid, I had drawn out probably the whole thing on the wall in like 2 or 3 hours, and then each mermaid itself took me about 3 to 4 hours to paint, depending on the level of detail I went into it. But it was definitely a lot of fun. It was different. In high school, unfortunately it got canceled, so I never actually got to do it. But I was going to be given the opportunity by my art teacher. She chose me and another student to paint a mural for the city. And like the week that we were supposed to go out, it was supposed to be like a field trip basically for us. Just the two that were selected. And like the week of, the city canceled. So it would have definitely been really cool. I was just honored to be given even the chance, or even be talked to about it. So being able to actually do something finally, like years later in my life, was a great experience and a lot of fun. And this was definitely one of my favorites. Also, it's just a little more sassy. When I actually sit down and I do more detail, I tend to like the way it turns out more. And I think that's kind of how everybody is. But it's definitely one that I was just a fan of. So this is After Mermaid. This was obviously June 1st. You can see how I like tried to continue the legs, and I was like, no, I don't like the way that looks. And so, but this was fun. This is getting back into doing the long hair, a little more detail in the outfit, and cutesy. A lot of my girls are very curvy. I tend to just like the way it looks. It's more so just my style, the way I like doing my girls. This one is another one that I really enjoyed. I'm starting to want to add more detail to like around the picture, whether it's the stars, butterflies, plants, all of that, just to make the image more of a full illustration rather than just the subject alone. So this one you can actually see on my Instagram if you're following, that I colored it digitally. I actually really like the way it turned out. I'm trying to do more practice digitally as well. It's something that I definitely struggle with, because I understand more so the concept of color traditionally rather than trying to learn it digitally. And I'm learning and figuring it out, but it's a new concept to me for sure. It's something that I've been working on for a long time, but just finding my own way of going about it, I guess, is the better way of saying it. So this one is June 4th. As you can see, I have like the moon still throughout. It's something that I'm just a fan of. It's kind of like a little ode to like my old school stuff where I had a lot of the face tattoos and stuff like that, which I really enjoy doing. This one was just simple and soft. I gave her some flowers in the background, a little bit of fun. Working on different poses for the arms, poses for the hands, because hands, I think for every artist are a struggle. But it's definitely something that I continue to work on. I have like probably 6 different hand poses that I just frequently flip through that I'm sure you all have noticed. But I mean, it's something that you continue to work on and continue to just study your own hands, study pictures of hands, people, you know, and seeing the way that your hands kind of flow in different ways. It's something where I've tried practicing like different ways that people recommend to do hands, and it's something that like I kind of just had to figure out my own way, because while trying to follow someone else's like tutorial, so to speak, it kind of helps. It's also one of those where until you find your own flow with something, it's not going to hit you as naturally. And that's where I've kind of just started developing my own way, so to speak. So this is just a quick, I think like 10-minute sketch. I always start with a face. Like in everything I do, I'll always start with like an angled face, or just the eyes are actually probably the first thing that I do draw, in all honesty. This one is one of my favorites. It's definitely an ode to my old school style, like I said, with more of the like tribal tattoos, facial tattoos, facial designs. But I don't know, I always love the way that it looks. This one was it's a follower of mine from Instagram and actually here on YouTube, where she's really sweet, and I think she's a great artist, and she's coming up, and she posts all these great pictures. And I also look at an app called Sketchy, which is where you go and people post their pictures for inspiration for other artists. So you go on it and you basically look at all these pictures that people post, and you take one of the pictures that inspires you and you draw it in your own style. And I wanted to do that also on Instagram, and she posts all these great freaking pictures, so I was like, oh, of course I have to. And so I took one of her great pics and I drew it up in my style, and I was really happy because she liked it. So this one, you'll see the crown, the floating crown, in a lot of my pieces. It's something that I've kind of just picked up as like a signature, I guess, of mine every so often. It's not in like every single one because I don't always like the dynamic for it for the illustration I'm doing, but in a lot of my stuff it pops up because it's, you know, everybody's a queen, so I tend to just add it to it, and I really like the way that it looks, so meh. This one was a little different. I was kind of like, it's unfinished for me. It's something that I kind of want to go back and explore, but trying to like round out all the angles by doing the spirals, almost in the sense of like I don't want to say Greek inspiration, but kind of like in some of their imagery and pictures, you'll see the spiral like play out. It's not necessarily in like the details of people, so to speak. You'll see it sometimes in like hair and like the ears and stuff like that, but not like on every angled line, which is what I was trying to do. This one, let me turn this sideways for you. I actually really love the way this turned out. Unfortunately, like, I am so rushed with when I do like brush pen inking, which is what this is. This is one of my favorite brush pens. It's a Kiritaki, and I love the way it feels. If I can find it, I will give you guys the link in the description. But I definitely hit ink all the time on my hands, and then I end up like splotching it in places where I'm like, no. But I still love the way it turned out. It's just a gold like gel pen and the Kiritaki brush pen, and that's all. I did do a quick layout with the Prismacolor Cola Erase pencil for the sketch, but then all the inking is with the Kiritaki and the gold metallic gel pen. So just a quick pose sketch. This is a pose that I actually really like, and I'm trying, like, I tend to do a good bit because it's something that I'm trying to find different ways of doing that pose, because it's such a fun pose to do. This is actually from the second video on my YouTube. A lot of you guys have seen it, I know, and I super appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I actually love the way it turned out. It's an ode to me getting back into coloring. Since I got my office all set up, I have all my Copics back, and I wanted to really start getting back into coloring, and I thought that starting up this YouTube and showing people in a way the way I color and in the speed paint process was something that, you know, I wanted to contribute, I guess. For me, when I was starting out doing Copics and starting out just learning to color with Copics, I looked around, especially because I kind of have a style that I look at in art for when I'm trying to draw inspiration and everything, and trying to find that style on YouTube was hard for me. I couldn't really find someone that I connected with when I was looking for artists who use Copic markers. Now, there are some good ones out there, and there's some artists on YouTube that I absolutely love watching. I'm actually subscribed to quite a bit, and you can see my list of subscriptions on my YouTube channel. But it was one of those things where, you know, maybe putting out mine would help somebody who was going through the same struggles I was, like looking for somebody who did just Copic speed drawings and who had a different way than others for coloring and creating their characters. So more pose practice. I wanted to do like a side angle, and always with the big booty. They have the curves, and this is the long, like, I love doing longer hair. It's just a habit of mine, and I do try and transition into shorter hair all the time, and I'm starting to like it more and more. But I definitely, if I'm not sure of certain angles for how I want certain things to look, I like to just throw in the long hair because it helps to still bring the image together without making me feel like something doesn't look right. Because I know, like, and I'm sure you guys are the same, as artists, we tend to be like our biggest critics. So it tends to be something where I know finding little cheats for where I struggle in little things tends to help. This one I actually love. I am bouncing back and forth on if I want to ink this on here or use my light table and do an inking on a different paper and bringing the image together. This is another speed drawing that I'm sure you guys have seen. I think she turned out really cute. The pose is a little different for me, and the perspective is, you know, from like the head down, or the head looking down, so to speak. But I'm happy with how it turned out. I think it's cute. like I said, I'm trying to add more stuff into the background. The background is actually colored with the Tombow dual brush pens, which I actually am finding more and more that I love. And Michael's does this thing where it goes on sale every so often for like 50% off. And I kind of tend to jump on it because there's something that I'm actually a big fan of. So this is for, right now, it's still pretty big, but it definitely was blowing up when I first started. This is for the Draw This in Your Style challenge. You can see the, I want to say this is Feefall on Instagram. And it was one of those where I didn't post or do any of the colorings for these on my YouTube because it's not necessarily my image. I didn't want to so much throw it onto YouTube as part of my videos. I wanted to more so do my own pieces for YouTube. And even though this is still my own piece in my own style, the original isn't my own. So that's why I just tended to keep just the pictures for my Instagram and for my Facebook and Tumblr and everything, and keep the videos for my own art style, my own created images. Another Draw This in Your Style. This was at Sophie Scribbles. It takes me a second because I don't remember all of them. I should have written them down on the paper, but this is fun. This is different. You don't see a lot of like the open mouth smiles for me, which I think I'm gonna start doing more because I like the way that the face turned out on this one. It's very still cartoony and definitely still in my style, but just brings a little more like joy into the image. This is definitely one of my favorites. This is another one. I would have to look it up. If anything, I'll add it in the description. But this this artist has really cute image, and I had sketched it out and I fell in love with the way that I had done it, and of course I wanted to ink it and everything. And then the last page is of course an unfinished sketch, but if anything, you know, maybe we'll get finished one day, or I'll just use it as scrap paper because that's what happens sometimes. And then random, I'm working on my lettering, so a lot of times on like random pages or on the back of my books, or sometimes even the front of my books, I'll just, you'll see random lettering of like the same words. But anyways, thank you guys for joining me. I really hope that you enjoyed this sketchbook tour. It's something definitely new for me. A lot of the times I'll just do like a flip through and I won't do any explanations behind them. So if you guys enjoyed this, let me know in the comments below, or if anything, let me know on my Instagram. Thank you so much for watching and joining me today. I hope you guys have an awesome day, and we'll look forward to doing more later.